All right, y'all, welcome. Listen, if you're new here, I just want to lay one thing out. Just just one thing. Just think about this for a second. If Sam Seder and the whole Majority Report crew can do video after video about the right, the people to their right, why shouldn't I be able to do a video criticizing somebody to my right, which is the Majority Report, and calling out the liberal Zionist propaganda that they've been spreading since like October 8th? So at the end of this, you will hear Sam Seder. If you're coming from the Majority Report, you will hear Sam Seder say, "Oh, we're just a small channel. They have 1.5 million subscribers." You'll hear him say, "Somebody that is that far left should not be watching this, or why are they concerned about the Majority Report?" Well, the same reason they're concerned about Dave Rubin, the same reason they're concerned about Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, because what they're doing is spreading right wing propaganda. And what the Majority Report is doing here is spreading liberal Zionist propaganda. So, right off the bat, please consider that. Maybe you'll stick around. The one thing I always say here is do not pay the streamers, do not feed the streamers, do not feed the podcasters, do not feed the YouTube video essays, what have you. If you're really about, doing this for the people, whether you're talking shit like me or like Rick does on Decolonized Buffalo, actually educating people, you don't charge people for that. You do it for the fucking love of the game. You do it because this is what we do. So you'll never hear me asking you for money. You won't hear me reading any ads like the Majority Report. I don't have any razors to sell you. I'm never going to take a contract with MSNBC. All right. So that's for anybody that's new around here. So we have Rick from Decolonized Buffalo. Rick, if you want to introduce yourself briefly, please.
Yeah, I'm Rick. Uh, I run Decolonized Buffalo. I'm Comanche. I have a master's in indigenous law, and my goal is to educate people on decolonial theory. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And please check out his podcast, Decolonized Buffalo. Abdel, if you want to introduce yourself briefly, if you could, to whatever you feel comfortable.
Sure thing. Thank you. My name is Abdurrahman. I am an educator. I teach sociology, and I'm Palestinian. I'm from Jerusalem, and am excited to join the conversation today. I watched this earlier, and I think it opens up a lot of really important topics. So thank you for hosting.
Always, always. And just to give a teaser, y'all, we'll see how this goes. If Abdel's comfortable, there's a lot more liberal Zionists out there who are profiting off the literal genocide of Palestinians who need to be called out. If you look at the first live stream I ever did of this channel, I was calling out Marianne Williamson for her liberal Zionism. And people were just eating it up, clapping it up for this white queen, right? So from day one, this channel, was in a lot of ways dedicated to calling this out, liberal Zionism. So let's go ahead and get started with this video. Let me know what y'all think. Rick and Abdel are going to let me know as we go through this.
Yeah, just to follow up. So I've had issues with like liberal Zionism. I think Malcolm X said.
I apologize. Just to be clear for anybody who doesn't know, Rick asked me to do this. I forgot because they're so popular. The Majority Report is one of the, if not the biggest independent channel on BreadTube, LeftTube, whatever you want to call it. The white boy podcasting crew. Because Sam Seder makes sure to keep his show as white as possible. As white as possible for like 2 decades. And they can't find any minorities, any colored folk to be an actual like co-host, an actual producer. None of that for 2 decades. They unable to do it, Sam Seder. So Sam Seder has been doing this for 2 decades. The Majority Report. He took it over from like the old school liberal days of FM radio. They still air on local stations. But just to be clear, he's been doing this for 2 decades. There's no excuses for why he's still a rad lib, why he's a liberal Zionist. None whatsoever. Emma Vigeland, you can't call her a nepo baby, but this is as close to like nepotism as you can be. She came up through the TYT right wing pundit university that they have going on over there. And the thing is, her parents are like these corporate like DNC lawyers. Like that's how you know how she got these connections, because she will demonstrate here how just unimpressive and embarrassing she truly is. And she had everything handed to her, every educational advantage you could imagine she had, and she's still not used to being like questioned or pushed on her positions. We also have Matt Leck as a producer, the third person. You'll hear his voice. I think out of all the individuals, I despise Matt Leck. I don't hide that I'm a hater. I despise him the most because he actually claims to like be, a socialist, a communist, what have you. He has his own channel, Left Reckoning. And what he serves here, and you'll see it, is as a leftist guard dog to his boss. This guy really thinks that he's a socialist, a communist, and that his boss is his best friend. He really truly believes that. But unlike the other two, he actually does come from a working class background. But we'll see that that still doesn't negate the fact that he's a settler and the limitations of his politics. All right, is that good, Rick? Was that sufficient?
Yeah, I was wondering who is who are these people, because I feel like I've heard of them, but I've never actually watched them, right? And I remember their faces. This dude right here, Sam Seder, looks like Hernan Cortez, but this is my personal opinion. But God, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're not organizers. They're not activists. They don't ever get off their ass. They're just there to, collect a check.
I do want to say one thing. What you're doing is good, because when I talk about the white boy podcast industry, I'm talking about the system as a whole. You're diving in like head first and tackling every small details within the white boy podcast industry, which needs to be done. Right. So,
yeah, well, because I used to be a fan like that. I mean, I came up like watching a lot of these individuals. The great white savior, Michael Brooks, rest in peace. Like all these individuals I followed, and then slowly but surely I was like, yo, like these people are like, we'll see what they are. We'll see. Just want to introduce Derek real quick. Plans Fanon. Derek, if you want to give a quick introduction to yourself, please, before we get going.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Derek. I'm also known as Plants Fanon on formerly Twitter, now more Blue Sky. And yeah, I'm Black, Chamorro, Irish, communist, and yeah, that's about it. I'm a cultivator, cannabis breeder. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. I appreciate you for being here, bro. So yeah, and like I told Rick and Abdel prior to starting the stream, please be as critical as possible. I know some mistakes that I did. I will point them out, but I want to hear what y'all think as well. We'll get this started now. Appreciate it. Oh, and Derek, whenever you want me to pause, just let me know, man.
Cool.
The best, the whole Fox versus Wolf situation. And my issue has been since October 7th, I've noticed a lot of liberal Zionist talking points coming from y'all.
Liberal Zionist talking points coming from y'all as in us?
From us. Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, for example, so...
Wait, I just want to point out how like blown away they are that anybody could have a criticism of them from their left. Like they're just amazed. They're like, from us? How? We are the left. We are the most radical. We are, the pinnacle of liberation. Like, how could it possibly be that anybody could be critical of us? And it's because nonstop they have their fucking cultists like always hyping them up, saying you're doing the best, you're the most wonderful. Without you, Palestinians have no voice. Like, just that's all they hear. So this is why they're going to be so taken up, so insulted. In some cases, like Emma, like straight up raging.
Yeah, in the moment you give them criticism, they go full racist. You'll see later. People will see later.
like liberals do. All right, let's go.
On 11/1/23, Emma Vigeland stated, sorry, I was about to say.
That Israel has a right to exist because it does?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, y'all. If you're not telling me to pause, I will continue to pause. She already knew. Before I said it, and this was months ago, she already knew. So they cannot claim ignorance. They know what they're doing. That's just my opinion. I think they know what they're doing. They know what they're there to do, which is to push Zionist liberal propaganda. Am I wrong? I don't know. Is that just me, like, overthinking?
No, dude, I'll be
No,
honest.
and
Go ahead, Derek.
I was just gonna ask, did you perhaps mean like labor Zionist, or did you mean? I mean, liberal. You could. I mean, I would consider them liberals for sure, but like I didn't know if that's what you maybe meant with labor Zionist, like.
No. Yeah, no. I meant like they're liberal Zionists. But if you want to
Yeah.
just take a moment to expand on the labor Zionist aspect of things.
Yeah, sure. The labor Zionism is like, that's a term that I've been using for a while, like more broadly, generally, even though it's specific to the Palestine situation. It's where because I like the term that Robert Beale used. He used the term, like, which is a more general term, being social colonialist, which is like kind of like a reference to social imperialism. Like, I guess it's a more specific kind of social imperialism. For those who don't know what social imperialism is, it's like, labor politics, labor aesthetics, but with like a imperialist characteristics to it, in terms of it, like a movement that espouses labor politics, but at the same time it also espouses like the national oppression of some colonized or imperially victim of imperialism, some nation that's a victim of imperialism, or in this case, a social colonialist, a victim of colonialism. So that would be like a more broad term. I use it kind of interchangeably with labor Zionist, because labor Zionist is like, especially recently, because it's very relevant to the Palestine conversations, quote unquote discourse. So like there's a whole movement, or is actually a part of the colonization of Palestine by the Israeli occupiers, that it was very popular for a long time, until the last couple decades, where they took the hard economic right-wing turn, the Israeli settler colonial project. But before it was popular to be like a socialist, a quote unquote socialist. If I'm sure y'all know about the kibbutzes, like the kibbutz, the like communal, the communes. The Israelis had communes, like, and they're like, and I'm sure if you have white colonial sensibilities, you're like, yeah, that's cool. Like, they had communes, but they're colonizers. Like, they're doing communes on someone else's land as occupiers. So it's like, this is like what we're talking about, what we talked about that last stream we did, where, labor politics isn't a qualifier for like being like cool and good, and being principled. Like, you can have labor, you can be all socialism, labor politics, and still be an active occupier, an active colonizer. Like, it's like, you know, just like the chauvinists in the you can go all the way back to the chauvinists in the USSR, who were, you know, Russian chauvinists. You know, Lenin and Stalin talked about it. You know, them being a huge problem, and we talk about them being the reason that the USSR collapsed. But yeah, so like that's what labor Zionism is like that whole movement in Israel to, you know, it was a quote unquote labor movement, but you know, it was, you look at the party, the Communist Party of Israel, it's called Maki. They had they had a chauvinist colonial line on the national question. And it's like and that's why they split, and then now we have like, you know, there's like another sect, but there's like the PFLP, and you know, Maki is its own thing. And like, sorry, go ahead.
No, we definitely have to do another stream on that, because I also called out the white men over there at the Vanguard when they started defending Marianne Williamson, like revisionist history of the origins of Palestine, and they brought up kibbutz as a defense to why the initial, you know, Zionist project was actually like well intentioned and like an example for the left, which just goes to show that they're just, you know, that settler mindset. Yeah, it's insane. All right, let's jump back into this. We do have a hard out for both Rick and Abdel, so I want to jump into it. My apologies there. All right.
Yes, so let me clarify those comments. Let me clarify those comments. So I probably should have.
Sorry, I was about to say.
That Israel has a right to exist because it does?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so let me clarify those comments. Let me clarify those comments. So I probably should have been more clear that I do not believe that the Israeli people that live there, not the illegal settlers, but the Israeli people that live there should be expelled. I believe in a one-state democratic solution in which Arabs, Palestinians, and Jews in the region live together under a democratic system. Does that clarification satisfy your criticism?
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is problematic because she's saying that they want the system where the settlers also have political power, right? Which is wrong. And then I think later on, as time goes by, she talks about the Jews being the indigenous of that land. So not only is she, you know, trying to give them political power, but she's, you know, legitimizing them through indigeneity, right? I think that's was really fucked up. But that's my point of view.
Basically, pretendianism, right?
Yeah, pretendianism, or, you know, settler move to innocence via, you know, blah blah blah, you know, history or whatever. I don't know if Abdel has something to say. I think your mic's on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was listening actually to what you and Derek have been saying, and I think Derek hit on some really important points earlier with the red washing through the kibbutzes and the whole idea that we, you know, that, oh, they must be good people because they're living in a kibbutz, but they're, again, settlers at the end of the day. And you know, I think the term liberal Zionism needs to be interrogated a little bit more before we even go further, because the term liberal Zionism, it's not necessarily a term that is really intended for usage for a lot of Palestinians as much as it is intended for non-Palestinians to understand that there is some washing taking place with Zionism, because there is no such thing as liberal Zionism. There is just either you're a Zionist or you're an anti-Zionist. It's like saying you're a liberal Nazi or a conservative Nazi or a moderate Nazi. Who gives a fuck? You're a Nazi. And in many ways, it's exactly the same way with Zionists, that in reality, they're Zionists at the end of the day. The second she said she believed in the existence of Israel, end of story, she's a Zionist. But then again, liberal Zionist, that terminology is still, I think, useful, because it does kind of point out to all kinds of washing, whether it's green washing or red washing or pink washing. You know, they're hiding behind supposed progressive policies and neoliberal ideas that, you know, are still, you know, still very much at the core of what they believe. So their belief system. So she knew immediately, like Carla said earlier, she knew immediately what it was. And in many ways, that kind of highlights that they know what they're doing, and they do know what they're doing. And in many ways, even the denial, as we'll see later in the video, of you know, of the even the idea of liberation, that liberation is a material thing. It's return of land, and the emphasis on settlers and she's not trying. She clearly said illegal versus legal. There's no such fucking thing. You're a settler. You're illegal. End of story. So she's trying to draw a distinction between supposed, United Nations, global, international definitions of the United Nations, that what's legal, what's illegal. If you're a settler, you're illegal. End of fucking story. There is nothing more to it. But I mean, their politics are immediately visible. They're immediately visible as soon as they open up their mouth. Thank you.
I have a 10-second thing to say real quick. So Zionism, obviously settler colonization, and the different forms of liberal Zionism or labor Zionism. You can kind of translate that to like settler move to innocence, and you can read about that in Decolonization. It's not a metaphor by Tuck and Yang, which you can Google for free, right? So it's a good article to read about different ways that settlers tries to move to innocence. That's it. Thank you.
No, yeah, that was great, and I'm glad that it was pointed out that she said not like the illegal settlers. Like that distinction right there just shows you everything, as Abdel said. And yeah, there's no reason why all these so-called leftists aren't reading Decolonization is not a metaphor. All right.
Well, my issue is with like supporting the continued existence of a settler colonial project,
which I don't.
Well, I mean,
she doesn't. That
she already contradicting herself.
They only see it. This is why I started this whole I'm working on this project, and Rick is gracious enough to help me to allow me to do a presentation for a lecture series that he's organizing, which is about settler realism and their inability to see the world, see reality outside of the settler mentality. She literally just contradicts herself. Go ahead.
These two are, to me, like reflecting the Sidney and Rebecca Bunting that Harry Haywood talks about in Black Bolshevik, who are making the case that white South Africans are a legitimate nation of people, or are legitimate multiple nations. Sidney Bunting was saying, it's like, they're comprised of Dutch and English settlers, and they constitute a legitimate nation. That's essentially what she's saying about these European Jews. Although it sounds like, later she starts getting into like pretendianism. Yeah, settler move to innocence, like Rick saying that these Jews are Ashkenazi specifically. Is this is what we're actually talking about, is Ashkenazi Jews is essentially what she's saying are indigenous to Palestine, which they aren't. They're Europeans. Like, they're genetically Europeans, even if you want to get into the blood quantum stuff. But that it's why genetic tests are illegal in Israel, because they'll just show that you're all just fucking Germans and Hungarians, and you're not from there. Like they're all white people.
One thing that I will add is the Nazis won in so many ways after World War II. In so many ways they won. And one of those ways is the fact that everybody just started accepting European Jews as a distinct racial category from the rest of Europeans. That is a Nazi propaganda line. And Europe just spread that out after the Holocaust. And obviously Zionists used it to their advantage. But that to me is just, you're a fucking Nazi if you believe that European Jews are somehow not European. That's just me.
Oh yeah, Lord Balfour just kicked out the white Jews from Europe, and the Zionists were just like, yes, Daddy, thank you.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
You mean the state of it, or are you talking about it in its current form?
And that's the other thing, Sam. Your whole.
Well, wait. No, wait.
No, I'm answering. I'm answering. The question that you just raised was my second point, where you're trying to redefine what.
Yep.
Now you're saying good job. Don't let him cut you off. But good job.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Anti-Zionism is. as anti-apartheid, where you're trying to redefine what anti-Zionism is as anti-apartheid. Apartheid is just a tool of settler colonialism, right?
Okay, so now you answer my question. What is it that you're actually proposing?
To actually support decolonization.
Okay.
To support the complete dismantling of settler colonialism.
Okay. So can you be more specific in this instance? Like, what are you saying? You're saying expulsion of all of expulsion of all of the individuals living there.
Pause there for a sec. Like, this is what we encounter here, right? In our, you know, in the bad faith interpretations of what we say about, like, you know, give indigenous people like control of their land back, of all of our land back, and then they're like, oh, you mean you want to genocide the white people or kick out all the white people? It's immediately a jump, a logical leap to white genocide. And these are people who consider themselves socialists, right? It's just like, and they're crying about white genocide as if, which is just gaslighting, you know, Darvo white people shit.
Yeah, no, to be clear, and you're 100% right. Sam Seder does not consider himself a socialist. I had to find the clip, but he literally says something along the lines of like, it's a pipe dream. Maybe it's something that my children will see, but not me. So I don't like advocate or I don't fight for it. I don't push for it. So he doesn't consider himself a socialist.
So he's like a liberal, right?
No, it's this clip right here. He says that. He says it on this clip later on.
No, but specifically about socialism. He says this about about Zionism. But to be clear, they always talk trash about liberals, but so I don't know what they are. I guess they're rad libs because they don't call themselves liberals, but they're not socialists. Matt Leck, I think it considers themselves socialist, but they're rad libs that refuse to call themselves liberals and will tell you to vote for Genocide Joe. So explain that one. All right.
Whose ancestry was not from that place. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not doing the whole like white genocide, you know, remove all Europeans, right? I'm not supporting that.
Okay.
What I'm saying,
I'm asking you.
Well, you asked me a question.
Answer what I'm asking. Yes, answer.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's your questions are rooted in a Eurocentric mind frame. That's why I had to like dispel that first, right? So I'm not supporting like this image of a white genocide of removing all Europeans.
They're struggling, right? You see, like the wheels.
His brain is like not working.
Yeah, you could see the error 404 does not compute.
No, this is. I think Carlos here, perfectly responded to this, because the issue is with the question itself. Because the issue, first of all, that question implies that it's the responsibility of the colonized to deal with what the fate of the colonizers, the fate of the settlers. It's not my fucking problem. But even then, we also, yes, let's take into consideration people that might have been born there, don't have dual citizenship, whatever it may be, right? The reality of it, if Palestine is liberated tomorrow, there is no doubt, there's absolutely no doubt that Hamas would win the elections right away. If there's a democratic elections process that happens tomorrow, Palestine is liberated, who's going to be taking power? It will be Hamas. Do you really think any settlers would want to live under Hamas? Do you really any settlers would want to stay there? And that's what we're talking about. They will eventually leave when the indigenous people decide their own fate. And the reality of it is, as I'm sure everyone here already knows, Hamas is seen as a resistance movement, as the freedom fighters, as the indigenous people that are fighting for liberating their land. This is something that's very clear to Palestinians who are very scared to say it only in the diaspora or scared to say it, in the so-called United States. But in reality, there's no doubt that you go to Palestine, Palestinians understand Hamas and many of the other factions, Palestinian factions, resistance factions, as legitimate Palestinian resistance. So there's no doubt that they would win an election, that they would be in power almost immediately for liberating Palestine. That being said, settlers would not be okay with that, and they would just leave on their own. Like Layla Khalid said during an interview with her about the fate of settlers, what would happen to settlers if Palestine is liberated or when Palestine is liberated. She exactly said that, well, first of all, it's not a problem, but any settlers that do want to stay, they can stay, but they will be living under Palestinian rule and Palestinian regulations in a Palestinian society. And if they like that, they're welcome. If they don't like that, they can get out. And that's really what it comes down to. But like Carlos said, and I think Rick pointed out, that their brain is about to explode because they're not used to confronting these things.
Yeah, and so basically losing their colonial privileges is oppression to them, right? It's like they're saying like, wait, we don't get to, because their idea of democracy is white people get to have state power over land that doesn't belong to them. And so like this is what they're saying. They're saying like, well, what if like, and yeah, to your point, you look at Rhodesia, what happened when Rhodesia was liberated, was Zimbabwe was, established after, overthrowing the Rhodesian government. It was, exactly as you said, most of them left because of the way that global European colonialism worked. A lot of them got to keep a lot of colonial privileges. So obviously there's still contradictions. There's still colonial contradictions in Zimbabwe. There are large swaths of land owned by Rhodesian colonizers still because of how the global system works. Obviously, that's a problem in South Africa, another European settler colony, where, okay, apartheid is over, but you still have the colonizer class owns vast swaths of land, most of the arable land in South Africa. So yeah, just to give an example, that I remember Gerald Horn, when we interviewed him, brought up the example of Zimbabwe, and that stuck with me a lot. Of like, look at what happens. Just look at Zimbabwe. Like, colonizers leave when they lose their colonial privileges for the most part.
Yeah, I always forget you guys have the Gerald Horn connection. I need to read at least 10 of his 100 books before I feel qualified to ever even interact with him. But he's amazing, and everybody should read him. Outstanding individual. All right.
No, I'm not doing the whole like white genocide.
Look at her face.
Remove all Europeans, right? I'm not supporting that.
Okay.
What I'm saying,
I'm asking you.
Well, you asked me a question.
Answer what I'm asking. Yes, answer.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's your questions are rooted in a Eurocentric mind frame. That's why I had to dispel that first, right?
Yeah,
so I'm not supporting this image of a white genocide of removing all Europeans from the area. But what I am supporting is dismantling the whole structure, right? We've seen in South Africa, you could remove the so-called apartheid state, but the people that still own the means of production, that still hold power and resources, are still the Europeans.
Okay.
So you have to dismantle that aspect of it in order to actually succeed in a decolonization process, right?
Okay.
We see it here, right? Sure, Native Americans have sovereignty to a limited extent, but it's still a settler colonial project that you benefit from more so than the indigenous people.
Right.
And
agreed.
If I could jump
New
in,
Africans, right?
With I appreciate. You're right. Everything you're saying is right. I am trying to now be a lot more direct with my I do think we need to start saying occupation. Like, this is an occupation. The United States is an occupation. Canada is an occupation. Like, exactly what you're talking about with him, and using the word apartheid. Like, apartheid is a white people word, and I'll always be saying this. Fascism is a white people word. Apartheid is a white people word. Those are words to obfuscate that it's a settler colonial occupation. That's the language we need to be using. We do need to just call it what it is, because it's white people, abstracting and obscuring reality by adding all this bullshit terminology. That's just like, oh, the problem is that it's an apartheid. It's like, no, it's not. The problem isn't that it's apartheid. The problem is that it's an occupation, a settler colonial occupation of an illegitimate state that is the state of Israel. just to say, sorry, that's what I would say. I would say Israel is not legitimate, and no, I don't support a one-state solution. The only one-state solution I support is Palestine existing, and there's no such thing as Israel, and Israelis aren't entitled to state power on land that doesn't belong to them. And that's really, I feel like those are where I kind of like, I'm trying to steer the language that we use in that direction, because that's what white people need, those wake-up calls, and everyone needs those wake-up calls, I think, and needs to start talking about them in proper terms. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on that, but
you're absolutely correct, and I will start adopting occupation into like my language. I always learn so much from Derek, and I say that because I learned a lot from Rick and Abdel, but they're like older than me, and I don't like giving old people credit. So, and Derek is, I feel like me and Derek are around the same age. I hope so. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. I will definitely be using.
I think so.
Adding that to it. Yeah. I'm 30, by the way. I'm an old man. So, yeah.
I'm a little older than you. I'm between you and Rick.
Okay. But I mean, Rick is up, up there. He's
I need a cane.
I'm not that much younger than Rick.
No, yeah. And between us, you are. All right. And Abdel is claims to be a millennial, but I haven't seen the person.
I barely made it. I just barely made it, but I am technically a millennial.
Always brings it up. All right, let's carry on.
Okay.
So you would also support the dismantling of not just the U.S. empire, but the U.S. settler colonial project as well here, right?
Okay, so if I understand what you're calling for,
he didn't answer that, by the way, just for the record, and he's that's the second question of mine that he does not answer. But let's go.
Is you're talking about essentially a massive wealth transfer as well, not necessarily expelling all of the individuals from that area, but rather a wealth transfer. And by what means would you do it?
Well, I mean, come on. Like, Fanon has talked about this. You have Matt Leck there, right? Like, he's always jumping in.
Oh no, but I mean,
so it is violent. Yes, it is violent.
Okay.
It's always violent. You know this.
Okay. Oh no, I mean,
why
look,
are you playing?
I'm not playing. I'm asking you a question. I mean,
well, look, ultimately, you invoke me to jump in.
There we go.
In South Africa. I mean, I think like Malema and what he points to, like with regards to what needs to be done to actually undo the economic inequalities of South Africa. Yeah, that needs urgent addressing, and like it is causing violence right now. And
correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, but didn't Malema talk about shooting Boers?
That is the origin of that song is there was a black person was killed by a farmer, and the chant came from it calling for them to be executed, for racistly murdering a black person. But yeah, it has become generalized as a cultural and political chant, like because of it's like an anti-colonial chant, like it's like kill that board, like kill the racist. It's like directly about a racist person, so it's like it's like not that all white people aren't inculcated with racist thoughts from
but just to be clear,
through
just
culture,
to be clear,
like
that we're not saying that here, we're not advocating for that here. What we're saying is that gained popularity, not necessarily about individuals, but about killing racism is essentially what it became, right, Derek?
Yeah, it's anti-colonial. It's an anti-colonial chant. It's like it's like it's like if you were chanting, if you're a Comanche and you're chanting like kill the colonizers, it's like it's just like they're your oppressors. It's like if you're Russian and it's the Brit Blitzkrieg and you're chanting kill the Nazis. You know, it's
Right,
like, why is it different? The only reason people think it's different is because of racism, and because they think black and indigenous people aren't entitled to violent revolution to liberate themselves. They think that they have to be peacefully accept colonization, and that's their racist view. That's why there's really no debating. I think this stuff is important because you get to hear them say the racist things. It's just then you have to go through all the work of deconstructing it, but which is what we're doing. But yeah, that's why it's not really a debate, right? It's like Fanon said that there's no debate, you know, there's no discourse to be had between colonialism and the colonizers and the colonized. It's just a fear. It's just who wins. It's a matter of who wins. And so that's why when in my propaganda, my agitprop, like I try to stick to, like, you know, which is what a lot of revolutionaries have done. It's just like, I'm not addressing your racist rhetoric. Like, I'm just telling you what I'm going to do, like what we're going to do. You can reject that. And I expect you to reject that. So yeah, that's how I approach like agitprop basically.
I have a quick comment too. So, you know, first off, I keep saying the same thing. The first chapter, the first paragraph, the first sentence, you know, Fanon says, you know, decolonization is a violent event, right? Because settlers are going to uphold their realities, which Carlos talks about, settler realities, and they will fight you for it, right? And they try to always take different avenues, which, you know, is spoken about, and decolonization is not a metaphor. But I try not to say things on the platform because I know people can report them and have the whole platform, you know, removed from, you know, the social, you know, these YouTube or wherever. So, but what I believe and what I say on here, trust me, I believe a lot more harsh stuff than what I see on the internet, right? So people just have to read Fanon and see how we feel about things and how shit should be handled. That's all I'm going to say about that. So these people that talk about like, oh, you know, like they want kumbaya version of revolution or kumbaya versions of like decolonizations. That's impossible. It's impossible when down to the very grassroots of you know, in organizing, the white people are hostile. And we saw that recently. We had a whole episode about that recently. So if the grassroots, where people are supposed to be our best comrades, are still hostile towards the most basic bullshit, you know, in politics and calling them out, what makes anybody think the higher you go, the better it would be? No, it gets worse, right? So, and this is politics 101. I mean, I have a political science degree before my law degree, for my bachelor's, and everywhere, anybody you read in politics, whether it's like anywhere in the world, nobody gives up power willingly. You have to take it by force. It's just basic understanding, you know? So, yeah, Thank you.
All right.
But it needs to be covered. It needs to be taken over by a post-colonial government. I mean, I don't think you can Lema and what he points to, like with regards to what needs to be done to actually undo the economic inequalities of South Africa. Yeah, that needs urgent addressing, and like it is causing violence right now. But it needs to be covered. It needs to be taken over by a post-colonial government. I mean, I don't think you can solve the problem with just violence. I think you need to have. I mean, like we support, or at least I support, one democratic state, full right of return for everybody, and everybody wants to stay, should be able to live in peace. And then you have a structure like that. But go on. You want to jump in, be more specific about Fanon or whatever.
Yeah, no, what I'm stating and to what you just referenced right now is you keep saying this whole thing of like free democratic state for everybody. Like, what right do these Europeans have to have a say within this state?
Oh no, I'm not saying like wait for the Israelis to allow for full right of return. I think that should be imposed by the UN and out.
Right.
Yeah,
100%. But that's what I'm saying. Like, these Europeans have no right. No
so expulsion for people who expulsion for people who don't have ancestry from there. I mean, I asked you that, and you said
no. You keep pushing this. I'm not promoting some White genocide. Ask.
No
I'm
one's
not
saying
saying
white
genocide.
genocide. No one's saying
I'm
white
not saying
genocide.
that.
You're
That's what you're referring to when
Okay.
you keep talking about
No, we're not.
explosion.
Wait. Okay. So wait.
Expulsion is
hold
not
on,
genocide.
hold on, wait.
I just want to be clear. It is, and at the end of this, after the call ends, he admits that yes, what he was talking about could be perceived as genocide, and Emma Vigeland she knows that one of the categories of genocide is expulsion. But you cannot it does not fit the category of removing settlers and colonizers from the land that they've invaded, that the land that they occupy can never be considered expulsion. It's considered liberation.
I have a quick comment. So what Fidel Castro did, nobody ever called that genocide. The motherfucker put people on boats and ship it. Yeah, put them on boats to the U.S. Nobody ever considered that genocide. So if we do it, it's genocide. Get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
I have one more quick comment on this. I honestly think one of the things, because I know Carlos asked for recommendations. First of all, I think you're doing a phenomenal job responding to them. I would only recommend that you would expand on this in a response to something like this by also expanding beyond just white settlers, because I think that's something we often forget. There are a lot of settlers that are, they call themselves Mizrahim or Mizrahi, which is invented, ethnic identity. Basically, Arab settlers that came from Morocco or from Iraq or Yemen. They're settlers. There are black settlers. There are probably 1 out of every 5 settlers is from from Africa. It's not necessarily someone that is, that has to be white. And this Mizrahi identity really needs to be questioned, because they use the term, I guess, translates into Easterner Jewish people, but it's really to kind of muddy things up and making it difficult to see even settler colonialism as a project that strictly involves white people, because it's more than just white people. These, the defense, the Minister of National Defense, I guess, for the Zionist entity, Ben Gvir, he's a settler from Iraq. The guy is Arab, but he's a settler. And again, this identity was just invented in the last few decades, Mizrahim and Mizrahi, to muddy things up and making it seem like just a strictly white people issue. It's of course all rooted in white supremacy, but doesn't just involve white people. So I think I would just expand beyond just white settlers and Europeans, because there are settlers that are non-European.
I completely. I'd like to add on to that. The white settlers, this is something obviously we have to dig into, and Rick always references Tuck and Yang's article, talks about that the settler colonial project will recruit, new settlers from other parts of the world. And in general, I call all of those non-white settlers, I always prefer to refer to them as the comprador class, because that's what they are. Like they're expanding a European colonial project, as non-Europeans. That's the definition of a comprador. So these are people who are acting like, and obviously there's the problem, as you're talking about, with compradors in Israel, like comprador settlers and their entire comprador nations, right? Like there's like Saudi Arabia, UAE, the rich Arab countries, who obviously are, Arabs, but they are, politically aligned with Israel. So it's like there's an entire comprador problem. I think I like to always keep this global, because I think we need global solidarity between all colonized people. And I think there's this problem globally there is obviously this problem globally of a comprador class that aids in aids settler colonialism. Like there's all sorts of non-white people who are complicit in the settler colonial project.
Yeah, I agree. And I will definitely keep that in mind. Right now, I am currently reading The False Prophets of Peace, and they have a whole section on the Mizrahim. And yeah, I definitely need to dive into that further.
Do you have
All
a
right.
PDF version of that book?
Yeah.
Or,
I'll shoot it your way.
thanks.
Yeah, that's how I'm
thank-
reading it right now. I'm trying to go all digital, just
Yeah,
for
me
the
too.
stream. I need to start doing more readings. All right.
Wait a second. So, all right. So wait. So how is it that so they're there, but they don't? There's no. They never get any type of rights in the future society, or they don't have a right in the initial phases of a unified state.
Yeah.
The
I would
latter.
consider
The latter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because they're still an immediate threat, and we're seeing that in South Africa, where these white supremacists are just, biding their time, and they're still
okay. I mean, I guess, I mean, from your perspective, if you perceive my sense that is incredibly theoretical and is not possible in practice, and you define that as liberal Zionism, then I guess I am, in your view, a liberal Zionist, and that makes sense.
Not
But
just
you said it yourself that you wouldn't call yourself an
Keep going a little bit more.
anti-Zionist, right? Unless it.
And you define that as liberal Zionism, then I guess I am, in your view, a liberal Zionist, and that makes sense.
Not
But
just
you said it yourself that you wouldn't call yourself an anti-Zionist, right? Unless it was. Sorry.
Hold on for a second. So we're not talking about Sam. We're saying like Ilham Pappy is also a liberal Zionist. We're also saying that Jeff Halper.
Yes, and that's the issue with always referring to them. I have an issue with Norm Finkelstein as well.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but
You're referring to people who want a continued existence of Israel to exist in one form or another.
That's not.
Norm Finkelstein stated himself, "I'm not an enemy of Israel" when he was banned.
I didn't mention Norm Finkelstein.
No, I did.
I'm talking about people who are specifically on the issue of decolonized Palestine. Jeff Halper wrote a book on that. Do you have an issue with Jeff Halper?
Yes, I do. I 100%. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. Okay. Well,
he's a settler. He wants to be there still.
Then listen. You're right.
He's European.
Okay. Listen. On your definitions, you are correct. And all I can tell you.
What is anti-Zionist, Sam?
Wait.
What is anti-Zionist?
I've already conceded the point. You're right. I think there are all of the anti-Zionists, and you guys have your agenda, and that's it. You're right.
You guys?
You're right. You've won the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. This is an issue that we have with you white liberals.
Okay. I got it.
Spain, this kind of like, oh, you're right. Oh, you're better than bro.
No, I didn't say you're better.
I understand that active, right?
I want to make it very clear.
No. Of being self-righteous indignation.
I'm not being.
Always.
No, dude. You in this conversation. Listen, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. You're saying that there must be a total overthrow that must take place. That all of the European implants that have come in and colonized this must be completely disempowered in that first instance in setting up a new Palestine, let's call it, just for the sake of it. We don't know what the name of it would be, but let's just assume it's Palestine.
What does he talk about? That's just literally brain dead shit. I mean, it's like just saying Palestine. What? Palestine's new? Palestine's not new, buddy. You're brand new. Like fucking, like this dude's just a joke. Like it's just like what. Like I was gonna say earlier, I try to always steer these conversations back to history because like everything is self-evident. Like I maintain that like all this stuff is self-evident, and whenever people want to make all these whatever arguments about Israel and two-state solutions for any settler colony, I just but specifically in this case, it's like go back and read what Theodor Herzl had to say about the formation of this state, and that it's just he wrote it himself. Like he said all the shit himself. He said that this is a white Western project to, civilize or take the land for the civilized white West. Like that's literally, he said in his own words that. I'm paraphrasing, but it's like not even really like yeah, he basically said it. So like when you just bring people back to the Balfour Declaration and Europeans kicking white Jews out of Europe and setting up this whole pretendian scheme to turn them into an ethno-state military base for the West in the Middle East and calling it, you know, a return to the homeland of indigenous Jews when they're all just Europeans, and you just kick them out of Europe because you're anti-Semites. It's just like, I don't know. It's just like it's that simple. Like what I explained there, it's just like I don't hear enough people just explaining it in just the very like plain terms of how this whole thing came to be. And it's just beyond that. Like it's just like if anyone wants to dispute facts, like I'm sure he would. It just, yeah, it's just like, it's like, dude, it's the dude who did it called it like a white supremacist project. Like, I don't know what you want, what more you want, you know? It's like, what do you have to say about that?
They don't read though. That's a problem.
Yeah, they're all idiots.
All right.
And you're saying, and unless
sorry,
that
I want to
happens,
say good job earlier too, Carlos, on your response to that he's now countering. You did a great job.
We're not doing compliments here. We're not doing, but thank you. Thank you.
It is not a legitimate decolonization process. And I am conceding this point to you.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you want me to tell you. I happen to think.
Well, the issue is why not promote that?
Because I think promoting that is a pipe dream.
Yep.
It is completely divorced of the reality.
Yeah. Or maybe pay 10 more seconds and we'll go to that shit. 10 more seconds.
Reality that exists. And if you think millions of people are going to say, okay, we're not going to do that, then I honestly think that you are not in touch with reality. The theory that you can have may be correct, and I am conceding it. And if that makes me a liberal Zionist, because I have that position, I feel like relative to the company that you have put me in, I'm not terribly concerned about that. But I'm telling you that your position is, I think, completely fantastical. And I do.
Okay, here's a problem. This is why I have a problem with the white boy podcast industry, right? Because one, they don't understand our deliberation. Two, they promote their version of what liberation should be, or is they're the ones that live in a fantasy, not us. We're the ones that live in a nightmare, in oppression. But they're the ones saying that our liberation theory is a pipe dream. Our liberation theory is a fantasy, blah blah blah. And then so what happens is that other white people hear it and they start agreeing. Yeah, I agree. This is why like Midwestern Marx and Caleb Maupin and whoever the fuck is Haas, they say all these things, and then they have other white people copying their homophobia, their patriarchy, all this other bullshit, transphobia they have, their racism, and they mimic them, and I think it's okay. So I really do think that having settlers platformed is a fucking problem. It's going to hinder our liberation, and they shouldn't have any type of media, revolutionary media, at all. And I think we should label them for what they are. They are settler colonial. They're spreading settler colonial propaganda, in the guise of labor politics or whatever the fuck, revolutionary theory. And we had this conversation already when we talked about Rev Left, when we talked about Matt Hunter, and this is a problem. All these people are connected in one way or another. And this is why me and Derek do what we do, and other people, you, Carlos, do what you do, is because if we don't challenge them, this is going to be the norm. And it cannot be the norm. It cannot. And people are going to see us as aggressors. They're going to see us as fucked up, as bad people, because, they first, like I said, going back full circle, they don't understand. Since they don't understand, they think, it's a fantasy, but it's not. I'm trying to make it the mainstream ideology, our liberation, decolonization. And a lot of these people don't read, and all they do is, this platforming. These platforms are for commercials, just to put money in their pockets. Is to, oh, look at me, I'm a fucking, cult of personality. And they go to protest and people are like, oh, I love your work. But they don't really do anything. They just read the news and put their 2 cents. And it's garbage. Like, I really have never listened to them before this, right? But just listening to this now, I don't want to say, I would, be very, pro Fanon against them. So I don't. This dude's attitude, if it was in person, we would have serious issues. That's the end. Thank you.
I mean, but that's the case, and I'm not defending him, but I mean, that's literally why I kind of lose my shit at the end of this, because that's how it is interacting with the self-righteous, white savior liberals. But anyways,
white supremacists.
Yeah, I've dealt with this type.
They literally just think they're better than us when they talk to us. They just like, it's like, even when they're just fucking stupid and they know they're stupid, they're just like, but I'm better than you because I'm white. And I'm just like, you're an idiot. You don't know anything about anything.
Yeah, but this is what I talk about. I think I talked about it in your stream and on Derek's post-scarcity podcast, is that I have dealt with these types for the last 2 decades in person. People, they'll say, oh, you're right. Let me put a feather on your bonnet for a win. White people have told me that. Like, when I talk about decolonization, oh, you're right, we just let you win this argument, this debates, and
that's why I didn't let him pull that shit with me. He's like, yo, you're right, your definition. It's like, nah, homie, like, I know what he was doing. But yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a couple of things here. The one is the obvious one that you called him out on, which is that, oh, you win, I lost. Like he said, all the anti-Zionists, you're winning the conversation, as if it's like who's more radical competition kind of shit. And then the other thing he's doing is he's redefining shit. He's like, based on your definition, as if there are multiple definitions for this. There aren't multiple definitions to this. Before I hopped in here on this podcast, I looked into, one of the things I look into almost immediately when I have a question about a person, because, just like Rick, I don't know much about these people until I started watching their stuff and looking at their posts, etc. And the first thing I usually go to is I try to go to October 7th of last year and see what people said. Because for Palestinians, it was a righteous day. It was a glorious day. It was a day of celebration. It was a day where we tasted the liberation of land, where we actually got a taste of it for a couple of days when our resistance fighters went into the occupied 48 territories and literally, physically, materially took back land. The feeling, the elation, the sentiment that we experienced, I couldn't honestly even begin to describe what that was like. That this thing that even for us colonized people have, to some extent, absorbed this bullshit that he's spewing, that this is a pipe dream. And it just kind of dismantled it, and it felt like reality for the first fucking time. And that was one of the most empowering, most important things. And it's one of those things that I think Palestinians really, really need to recall how they felt that day. And they need to hold onto that feeling so deeply and so dearly. And that's what they don't want you to do. That's what Fanon was talking about with, the job, I'm paraphrasing here, but the job of the colonizer is to make dreams of liberty impossible. And the job of the colonized is to make those things materially happen by any and all means necessary. And in many ways, that's what our glorious resistance fighters did on that day, on that glorious day of October 7th, in which they took back land. And then, of course, the wrath of their weapons and their destruction came immediately afterwards, which is exactly what you would expect, because they understood we tasted freedom. They understood we tasted what we've been taught repeatedly is just a pipe dream. And it's not a fucking pipe dream. And this Emma co-host jumps immediately and says exactly, as if she was so eager to hear the word pipe dream. No, fuck both of them. It is not a pipe dream. These are not dreams of liberation. These are actual material things that have happened historically and can and will happen again.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, this is why I'm trying to work on this, concept of settler realism. They, for them, it is a pipe dream. A reality is white supremacy is in power. Settler colonialism is the reality and the way things should be. And maybe we'll adjust here and there to calm you people down, you natives, you savages, you backwards people that can't rule. Because if they truly believe that if indigenous people take power, Palestinians were to take power, like for them that's a nightmare. For them, they truly believe a white genocide will occur. And you see this from however they want to identify, right, left, centrist, whatever. They all truly believe that if indigenous people, specifically in this case, if Palestinians were to take power, as Abdel mentioned earlier, Hamas would win handedly, that it would be a massacre. When in reality, we've seen it time and time again. Colonizers flee the moment they lose any power. The moment they lose power, they flee because they're like, oh, well, why am I here? I'm just going to go back to my home and be an average person there because I can't, be a duke, a lord.
That's what happened after October 7th. There were a bunch of Israelis in the airports leaving because they were scared.
Yep. At the moment the temperature went up a little bit, they're gone. What do you think is going to happen when liberation occurs? All right.
You do. You're gone. You're a settler. Of course, you believe that it's an improbability, right?
No. I don't think it's
capitalism.
I don't think it's an improbability.
Realism.
No. I don't think it's an improbability.
But there is a settler realism. There's a settler realism as well. Play, right? That you cannot perceive the fact that you will lose power. Right?
No. I can perceive.
Who's the we here? Actually, no. Actually, I want you to expand on the fact that you just brought up Norm Finkelstein and you gratuitously to talk about. And when you say we, who are you referring to when you're talking about Sam? Huh?
Look at Sam's face.
What do you mean? Settlers, Europeans.
Hold on.
You're talking about white people, or are you talking about Jewish people?
No.
White people. Why are you pointing at anti-Semitism thing?
She's trying to paint you as anti-Semitic.
Look, none of us here are white. We're all different shades of brown and black here. All right. I'm going to speak to the white people who might be listening to this. There is nothing more embarrassing, nothing more uncomfortable, right, than when a white person pulls the race card for you. For you. Because we know, you don't just push that button. You don't just go there, right? If you're going to do it, usually the best case scenario is you get the person riled up enough to where they admit it themselves. But to have this wasp, this white woman who's never struggled a day in her fucking life, call me anti-Semitic for combating the liberal Zionist propaganda that they're spreading, exposing them, for advocating for the continued existence of the settler Zionist project, its evolution. For her to call me anti-Semitic is no different than what AIPAC is doing. It's no different from all these Zionists who are upset the moment that you talk about colonization.
This happened to me this week.
Average dumb cracker.
It happened to me last week. How this Jen from CPUSA said I was promoting blood quantum and I was racist for pointing out she had green eyes, blonde hair, and white skin.
Another
motherfucker,
dumb cracker.
You're fucking white, right? So how am I racist?
Yeah, I'm Asian. I'm not that.
But not only that,
like
blood quantum. I want to say this real quick. Blood quantum was put on by the U.S. government on Black and Indigenous peoples, especially Indigenous peoples, but during the Lawman era. She has never faced oppression from blood quantum policies. My kids do, right? I do too, because I'm measured by blood quantum, right? And my kids can't get enrolled in the Comanche Nation because, because of their blood quantum according to the U.S. government. That's a fucking problem. Her having kids will never deal with that shit because her partner is white. So what the fuck funny? Are you talking about? Yeah, go ahead.
I sincerely thought, I'll start the video again soon, but I sincerely thought on my end on the phone, it sounded like she said like blood quantum or something like that. When in reality, she said, if the shoe fits. I don't know why it sounded like that to me. So that's why I'm like, blood quantum, it threw me off. So I don't know, but my thing is, there's nothing more embarrassing, and you see it in Sam Seder's face because he realizes what she's building up to, calling me anti-Semitic. Nothing more embarrassing if you're a non-white, let's say this case or ethnically, I don't even know. I said it before, I'll say it again. The fact that you consider European Jews, non-European, non-white, that's some Nazi-ass fucking ideology. But in this case, for Sam Seder's, sake, let's just say, for somebody to pull out the anti-Semitic, accusation on his behalf when he's more than capable. I mean, he's the lead host. It's this show. It's the Majority Report with Sam Seder. But it goes to show how like this white woman's brain works, to where she feels any pressure. Well, I can't call him a sexist, so what can I call him? How can I completely dismantle his argument without engaging in it? I'm going to call him anti-Semitic. And the reason why I brought up, the reason why I brought up Norm Finkelstein is because Matt Leck is obsessed with reading and engaging and propping up all these Zionists, all these liberal Zionists. So he mentions Jeff Halper, who wrote a book called Decolonize Palestine, who still wants to colonize Palestine by being there and having the state evolve. Not by dismantling it, but having it evolve. So I mentioned Norm Finkelstein to add into it because he's the biggest voice on the Palestinian issue. Norm Finkelstein, somebody who hated Palestinians when they got a voice over him. He's on record for saying that he got canceled because he wasn't the right identity. He didn't have the right identity. He was furious at Palestinians for finally being able to, to have the mic. So the reason why I threw him in there is because the moment that he felt any actual physical threat, when he got held up at the airport in Israel, because he was, going over there, they held him for interrogation. Eventually they told him, hey, you're banned from Israel. You can't come in. He literally stated, quote, I am not an enemy of Israel. That is a Zionist. If you're not an enemy of Israel, you're a Zionist. So all his criticism, all his accusations, literally at best make him like a liberal Zionist. But the moment you say I'm not an enemy of Israel, you're a Zionist. So she's calling me anti-Semitic for calling that out.
I just want to add a real quick. It's not about any of those specific points having to do with them, but just in general, like I try to take the mindset of all I'm here to do, all I'm interested in doing is asserting, and that decolonization is the future and the reality, because it is. White people can't. They're a global minority. They can't have control of the world forever. Like they think they can. These two think that they can. They think they're always going to be. There's America's always going to be a white country, where they're where they have nationhood and statehood, and it's based on their episteme of thought and their political system. That's what they believe. They believe that Europeans are superior and that European culture and society should exist as it is, like as a global hegemony over land across the world, not just Europe. Like they believe that. That's really at the heart of what it is, and that's why they think Israel can just exist, because they're like, how could you take land from these white people, these white colonizers? It's like, how can you expropriate them of land? It's like, let me show you. Like, I'll show you how we're gonna expropriate them from land. Go look at Rhodesia. Like, that's what he's talking about. Malema. What does Malema say? He says there's going to be expropriation without compensation. Like that he wants to talk about Malema, like
right.
That Malema doesn't mince words. Like he doesn't beat around the bush. He's like, we're going to expropriate you.
Really, really quick. I want to say, whenever you critique these settlers, what she's trying to do towards you is kind of like put words in your mouth and slander you as a bad person. It's always like, we give them critiques, and it's going to be Carlos bad, Derek bad, Rick's bad. And like I said, we saw this recently. What these white people do is paint you in a bad light to legitimize their own settler colonial biases, their chauvinism. So it's not like, hey, let me address my chauvinism. No, it's, well, Carlos is bad, so I don't give a fuck about what Carlos says, even though you're on point, right?
Yeah. So, Abdel, do you have anything to add before we move forward?
Yeah, no, I think we're good. I think we covered a lot of ground with this one, and I don't have anything to add. But thank you for checking in.
No, no worries. I know you think I'm anti-Semitic as well.
No, I mean the thing with the idea of someone accusing someone of anti-Semitism altogether, there's a rule that one must learn whenever that happens, which is you just never engage with it. It's true, because really that idea is the it's a strategy more than anything else, because you described it also like, oh, she was strategizing. I can't accuse him of sexism, so I'll accuse him of of being anti-Semitic. So it's a strategy, and in a sense, the second you engage in it, is you've given into their strategy. So it's just the oldest trick of the book in terms of distracting from anything meaningful. So, and I think a lot of people know that kind of by now, because it's just been done way too many times. It's been exhausted. But yeah, I think you've done a good job in terms of keeping it minimal with her, and just calling her out on that. She's doing the same shit that others are doing, like the ADL, that works with the police and is a Zionist institution. So she's in line with them pretty much, more so than other people.
Absolutely. She realized her white tears were not valid here, so she pulled out the anti-Semitic card for Sam Seder. And I will look. I'm a hater. I will always admit this. I'm petty. But I will give Sam Seder credit here, because he immediately is repulsed by her doing this and says it straight. And you see her dumbass double chin face right here, regretting and embarrassed that she actually did this. But white women are going to white women. What are you going to do?
Not even Sam's pulling it.
Well, the shoe fits.
No, I think look.
Have some self-respect. Okay, blood quantum.
I think within the context of this country, but why?
Yeah,
I also think.
Thank you for understanding that.
No, I do. I do understand it. I also think the idea that the white Europeans in this country are going to give up the levers of power is also fantastical.
He admits it himself.
Yeah, he just said it. He just said the thing. He said the white supremacy. Bro, they just say it, and nobody really is like, oh, I don't know, is that really white? It's like, dude's just saying is a white supremacist. That's the problem. The problem is we get called Sakaists by people on the left for just saying that white people are racist when all they do is say shit like that. And they literally just, like I said, that's the colonial sensibility of the world. It's a shame. It's a global,
for liberals,
global phenomenon. White supremacy is okay.
Derek, you're on point. For liberals, they have to see a cross burning for them to be like, he might be racist. That guy might be that's how bad it is.
Well, I have a question real quick. How much time do we have? Because we have 30 minutes left.
Yeah,
so
it's about to wrap up.
Okay.
It keeps going once I get off the call, but we could stop after that. Yeah, I know. Rick and Abdel have a hard out at 3:45, so we'll let's be liberals here. Identity politics. Let's prioritize Abdel if he has anything to add, and if not, we'll get through. And then I'm not sure in the oppression Olympics. We have a Comanche Mexican, and then we have a Black Chamorro. I don't know where to put it. Clearly, as a Aztec warrior myself, as a pure mestizo, I have seniority here. But we're going to have to duke it out at the bottom here.
You are technically at the top of the caste system here.
You know what? Thank you for saying it. Not enough people recognize it and give me the respect I deserve. all right, fuckers, let's go.
Listen,
how do you
I don't
look at Emma reacting.
Let me ask you a question. No, hold on. No, wait a second. Listen.
White fragility, all that stuff is liberal cringe, but it's accurate. That's exactly what she did.
I don't understand what you get out of this. You're talking about a
Eurocentric.
Yeah, no.
Propaganda?
But there's no one who's listening to this show, who's watching YouTube right now, who is it doesn't necessarily think that it is what you're suggesting isn't impossible. And you're saying that there needs to be a violent overthrow, revolution of the United States.
I'm not saying that's what it is. That's reality. I'm not promoting anything here.
Okay.
I forgot I gave my last name.
You're saying that's what I mean by there needs to be.
Yeah.
Right? That's it's a necessity. There needs to be a violent overthrow of the U.S. government, and anything short of that is useless. I'm asking now, is useless or a waste of time or what?
Just to point out, this is what liberals, centrists do, quote unquote progressives. The moment that you say anything that might be perceived as radical revolutionary, or in this case, anti settler colonialism, they will say, "Oh, well, so we shouldn't do anything except revolution." Like they immediately start trying to paint you as a radical, as again this pipe dream. That's exactly what they do. So that's what he's doing here. He's setting me up. I watched this guy enough. I study my fucking enemies, homie. I watch Destiny more than I should, but I like learning what liberals and their debate styles and what they do.
I want to say really quick, he's also giving people the option of liberalism or settler colonization. Like, oh, what about that's the only option? What about these other options that I have? It's like, no, motherfucker, we don't give a fuck about your options. That's not an option.
Exactly.
Your option is Europe or the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Into the sea,
I
guess, as they say.
An argument here is what you're promoting in the way that you're approaching it by trying to redefine what anti-Zionism is, right? Again,
I have made it very explicitly clear that I've never contemplated myself as a Zionist or an anti-Zionist ever. The only time. What's that?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're neutral on a moving train.
I've never defined myself as, you just accused me of saying that what I'm doing is anti-Zionism. And I have said explicitly many times, I have never considered myself a Zionist or an anti-Zionist. I don't label myself. I just simply don't. You just accused me of using a term that I've never employed. And
you tried to redefine what anti-Zionism is as simply being anti-apartheid.
When?
And I gave you even the data of the first half. 11-1, right before the end of the year in 2023.
Okay.
11-1, 2023.
On
the
November
1st,
I
literally stated.
I stated what? Do you have the whole quote? Because
Yo, look how fucking angry he is. I will say I slipped up here. I should have let him wrap the noose around his own neck, but it's just there's a delay, and my excuse is I was on the phone. There was a delay, but I should have just stayed quiet and let him just wrap that noose around himself. Because check out what happens.
I'll comment real quick. Yep. Also, her facial expressions are weird as fuck. Like she's just like lost in the sauce.
Cracker face.
Yeah, cracker face. She looks like she owns a golden retriever and she picks up dog shit with paper, those little baggies. That's what she looks like. But go ahead.
Just to be clear, she has benefited, she has lived the life of luxury that little can imagine. Few people can imagine. She has had all the academic resources available to her, and she is still just by her performance here demonstrates that she's unqualified to even engage in any of these conversations from a fucking public school first generation. English is technically my fucking second language, motherfucker, bro. That's how, please, anybody questioning or doubting their intelligence or their ability to engage in any political sphere, look at Emma Vigeland and realize that you are more intelligent than whatever money can fucking buy.
Yeah, something that white people almost are incapable of understanding is that they are mediocre, and that all the things that they like and do are this mediocre shit, all this politics stuff. A couple mediocre white people in front of microphones, it's literally a waste of time, a waste of time at best, and actually just causing harm. Actually, is what they do. But white people think it's okay or cool, and awesome.
All right.
Exactly what it was.
Then go ahead.
It was. I would never define myself as a Zionist or an anti-Zionist. I've never done that. And
exactly.
Yes.
Actually, can we switch?
Yes, and
let me just switch up here a second. Let me just one thing. You invoke for.
See, that's where I messed up. I should let him continue that. Because to be very fucking clear, Sam Seder has admitted to being raised and educated as a Zionist. He's admitted to having gone to Israel and helped out in a kibbutz when he was like a high school student. And still, he refuses to call himself an anti-Zionist. How does that work? Abdel, do you have anything to add in here?
Yeah, I think it's rooted in maybe in his image of purity as settlers, because they use a lot of that language, and that they must be good people. Because I mean, a lot of liberals really kind of, thrive on that idea that I'm just a good person. And then to be a Zionist, to be a settler is a contradiction in their minds. I mean, that's one of the things I also always tell my students in class, is that we really have to dismantle this myth associated with the enslavement of Black folks and the genocide, ethnic cleansing of indigenous people here and around the world, that white people just didn't know any better. They knew very well what they were doing. They just had to resolve the contradictions in their mind, because whether you're living in 1492 or you're living in 2024 or anywhere in between, you want to go to bed and sleep at night and thinking of yourself as a good person. It doesn't matter. This is not distant past we're talking about. We have to dismantle this idea that, oh yeah, white people just didn't know better back then. They know better. And that's exactly what's happening right now. That's why I went back to see always what people say about the resistance after October 7th, because it's very, very telling. Because one of the things that the violent resistance he's calling a pipe dream that would lead to liberation, that we've seen historically and materially work, he's trying to resolve that contradiction in his head, because the resistance that has taken place in Palestine is often it's this thing that's often just ignored in mainstream media, because the early on after October 7th, with the way the media played things out was more about portraying Palestinians as terrorists, and then it became very clear very quickly, because we're in the age of social media and transmitting videos and footage live, and internet through that's coming through space, where it's really difficult to disconnect people in the same way that you could have done this, like, let's say 15 years ago. And because of that, who Palestinians were became something that everyone can see on Instagram, Twitter, or on TikTok, wherever. The acts of bravery, the humanity of Palestinians was visible to a lot of people around the world. So now they were left with one other possible narrative, because the narrative is either you're a terrorist or you're a victim. That they've done this with Black folks, with the whole Abraham Lincoln bullshit of ending Black enslavement, or overlooking Black resistance throughout the history of the settler colony, that's never taught about. All of these things are seen as like we're just passive, we're just things happen to us, and that's what they're doing with Palestinians. Because if you focus on the resistance, that's when you really start exposing a lot of things. And one of the things that the Sam Seder guy posted shortly afterwards and on his podcast was some bullshit propaganda about how this Zionist entity, the so-called Israel, supposedly funded Hamas, which is complete bullshit. It's propaganda, because the idea is here really to tarnish the reputation of a resistance movement. Because what would that say about a resistance fighter that's taking money from the people they're fighting or occupying? So it's bullshit, and there's absolutely no evidence to that whatsoever. And that's really just meant to tarnish the reputation of a resistance fighting group. It's meant to make them, vilify them, through the Orientalist bullshit that they've been on for decades now. And that's really what this guy is. This was happening in his head. It's clear to me that he's just trying to resolve all these contradictions. How could I be a good person and at the same time be a settler? And you can't. And that's what this process of rationalization. That's all.
I appreciate that. Yeah, the cognitive dissonance is like live and full effect here. I believe I have Abdel and Rick for a little under 10 minutes, so we'll finish up this video. But yeah, we'll wrap up quickly here. I appreciate y'all.
Fanon, elaborate.
Matt Legg asked me to elaborate on Fanon. This is so annoying but irrelevant.
What up?
You invoke
Well, which
Fanon
part?
and then punt it to me.
Him invoking Fanon to shut you up is the most ironic thing. Just saying that.
Yeah, obviously.
All right, elaborate the relevant point. You brought his name up.
No, I was referencing towards Sam asked how. I understand you're the leftist guard dog here.
No,
I get that your boss is your best friend.
I'm saying elaborate. You have the chance. Elaborate on Fanon. The relevant. You brought his name up. Go on.
Hold on.
Well, he was asking how, and I said through right.
That's not. That's all you got to say. Just violence. Fanon equals violence.
No,
that's all you have to say.
He asked me a specific question, and I answered.
Okay,
if you want to go through a whole
we're dancing all over the place.
Your job. I understand.
Is Yasser Arafat, was he an anti-Zionist?
Oh, he was a sellout. Right, the Palestinian Authority is a sellout, and you mentioned yourself that you wanted to see him burn alongside
Ariel
which
Sharon.
Prime Minister did you mention? Ariel Sharon. Why would you equate those two? Why would you equate the colonizer with the colonizer? Because I know you weren't referencing to him. I'm selling out the Palestinian liberation. So why did you equate those two things?
Why did I equate Arafat and because I both think they contributed to.
This is the issue.
Okay, well, but dude, here's the issue. No, here's the issue.
All right, Abdel, please jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, the distinction is very clear. I don't think if it was clear to him in the context of why he's anti-Yasser Arafat. And clearly, I mean, yes, Yasser Arafat was a sellout. He was, at one point, yes, pro-violent resistance, armed resistance. He was a symbolic figure, but then the Oslo Accords took place. And, the Palestinian Authority sold the Palestinians on what really was actually a pipe dream, the two-state solution bullshit. And that's the actual pipe dream. And his issue, Sam Seder's issue here clearly is just the strategy, the way they approached it, as opposed to Yasser Arafat just being a sellout. But that's really what it comes down to. The Palestinian Authority, I mean, that's the other thing too, is that I think a lot of a lot of Westerners don't understand this, but even unfortunately, I see a lot of Palestinians in the diaspora that struggle with this, is that normalization is a very, very serious accusation. And it's something that in Palestinian society is really not tolerated. There are instances of normalizers or collaborators that Palestinians would kill them. In the village of Silwan in Jerusalem, if a Palestinian sells their home to a settler, they literally escape out of the country in the dark of the night, late at night, because they will likely be not only shunned, they could easily literally be killed by their neighbors. Like, there's no tolerance for this bullshit, for normalization with the enemy. And that's really what these people are pushing. They're pushing the South Africa model, where, there's Nelson Mandela, who was in prison, who was, labeled as a terrorist. But then when Nelson Mandela sold out, and he said, yeah, it's apartheid, we just want equal rights, all of a sudden he's winning Nobel Peace Prize. He's an important person. He's a figure that we must respect. That's something that really needs to be questioned. That's what these people are really doing. They don't want the truth. They don't want to confront the truth. And the truth is that, nothing will happen without a violent resistance and without complete liberation of the land.
Yep, and they can't even they're incapable mentally to holding those two things in their heads at the same time, that you shouldn't equate, Palestinian resistance and the fact that they are sellouts, that some people do sell out on Palestinian resistance. Both of those things can be true.
Exactly. That both can be true. Exactly. That, okay, this is still a colonized person that sold out, but you're still equating the colonizer with the colonized. And clearly his reasons are not because, he sold out and he should have continued with armed resistance. Because this guy is not even at the level of even saying he's anti-Zionist. This guy is saying, I'm just neither. It's like, are you Nazi or anti-Nazi? Neither. It's like, there is no in between with this shit. There's no in between. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he literally stated recently, and I have the clip where he says, I don't even like using the word anti-Zionist because I feel it's a creation by Zionists to derail the conversation. That's why I just call myself, pro-Democrat. And it's like, imagine being raised as a Nazi, being sent to like the Hitler Youth schools, and then during World War II saying, I'm not really, I'm not an anti-Nazi, I'm not anti-fascist, I'm just pro-democracy. That's exactly what he's doing with Zionism. That's while genocide is occurring. That's what he does.
That's accurate. I agree 100%. It's accurate.
So without questions, this motherfucker's a Zionist.
Yeah, he is a Zionist. There's no question about it. And just the word liberal is added to that just to help other people understand, how he disguises his Zionism. But he's a Zionist.
100%. All right.
You got to get your own show. You got to get your own YouTube show.
Hey,
because
deculturation. This is where I started to call out people like you.
That's all you care about.
Deculturation. There it is. There it is. Deculturation.
Okay.
Check out Black Power Media, Breakthrough News, who actually do real journalism.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I'll take care. Keep being white.
News. Yeah. I probably.
All right, Rick, I knew you were going to say something, but in regards to what I'm saying, what they're doing, not who's funding Breakthrough News, the PSL, but in regards to actually, Eugene Perrier actually went to Haiti. Like, if you're going to be a commentator, especially asking for money, you better get off your fucking ass. Raleigh Khalek, for whatever criticisms I have of her, is at least, interviewing Layla fucking Khaled. Yes, thank you. So doing things that actually are matter or significant. We could criticize like the people funding them for sure, but in comparison, talking about people within the realm of the space that the majority report occupies,
Breakthrough News does promote labor Zionism.
Yeah, and I will. You know what? Again, this was a while ago, and I agree with you. I don't really shout them out as much as I should. The one thing that I do regret is because I did get heated, and it's going to be a fucking huge regret until I debate this motherfucker. Because I will. I'm going to be his fucking boogeyman. I should have shouted out Electronic Antifada. There's a reason why they haven't had anybody on from Electronic Antifada, because Electronic Antifada, they called out. Oh, now I'm blanking out on names, so I apologize. But Rashida Tlaib, like they've done like the work. They actually hold a hard line. They show videos of Palestinian resistance fighters, and obviously they have to, walk the line of YouTube censorship. But they're celebrating, they're upholding, the resistance forces. So that's why the majority report won't get anywhere near them. And I was too heated. I did lose my shit. Talk to a liberal for more than fucking 5 minutes, and you're gonna lose your shit. I lost my shit at the end. I will always regret not shouting out Electronic Antifada. But that's on me.
Deculturation. There it is. There it is. Deculturation.
Okay.
Check out Black Power Media, Breakthrough News, who actually do real journalism.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I'll take care. Keep being white.
Yeah, I probably will.
I think it's a good chance we'll stay white out. We'll still be white after this
probably
call.
will.
I mean,
Jeff Halper.
They're so proud of being white.
Well, that's my thing, and this is what people didn't get. I'm talking about the mentality, right? How you identify as white, because that's what they were spewing the whole time. Their allegiance to whiteness, their allegiance to the settler colonial white supremacist project of Israel and the United States. They did both. And secondly, stay white as in the program Stay White, because Sam Seder refuses to hire any like non-white people as like his co-host, as a producer. They'll have, tokens on for sure. Some of them who they had to get rid of because they were being a little too friendly with whiteness and throwing black people, non-white people under the bus. But that's what I meant also by stay white. Like I was throwing fucking double entendres in there. Stay white because, bro, they're in the fucking East Coast. How do you not have anybody that isn't fucking pasty white, anybody that doesn't fucking enjoy Wonder Bread? How do you not have somebody who isn't white on your show? Unless you're actively avoiding having those people there.
Yeah, it's a white people show for white people, so and for probably confused brown people, I guess. Yeah, white people be doing white people shit, and it's great. It's great. I love you getting on and antagonizing them. I appreciate it.
Fucking always. Abdel, I know you have to run. Do you want to give any closing thoughts, or how are you doing on time?
Yeah, I do have to bounce in a second, but thank you all for being here. Thank you, Carlos, for giving us this space. I really do appreciate it. I think this is a very important topic, and I think this is really the more meaningful reporting than anything that these people are doing, because all they're pushing is Zionist propaganda that's disguised. And unfortunately, it's not just white folks or settlers that are just listening to them and following them. Unfortunately, the self-labeled leftists like these people right here in the majority report are also recruiting and convincing colonized people of some of this. And I think being able to speak about this openly is the first step to being more critical of their reporting, because if this work is not done, they're just going to continue pushing their propaganda. So what we're doing is we're really kind of fighting against this propaganda that's really disguised very well through red washing, greenwashing, pink washing, what you name it. So no, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
No, of course, I appreciate it. And again, anybody thinking that this is just clout farming, drama farming, whatever the fuck you want to call it, if these motherfuckers, these liberals, these centrists can make profit, because I'm not asking for any money here, profit off of calling out Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro, the right, Jordan Peterson, all these motherfuckers, why can't they be called out and held accountable for their, in this case, Zionist propaganda? I will say, and I've been talking to Abdel, hopefully we can continue like this pattern of calling out liberal Zionism. I know Abdel has it out for the Mateis. I don't know if you just want to give a quick snippet before you're off, a little preview for the people, what's to come if we actually tackle on the Mate family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these people, along with a lot of other characters, have been benefiting a great deal. I mean, they claim they're not making money, or they will make events, for example, and they'll say that, oh, we're not getting anything out of it. But in reality, they're getting status, following. He's writing books, making money off of it, trying to thrive based on his father's name. But I mean, he literally debated or sat down with an Israeli occupation force guy, and it's like these are the people we're dealing with. This guy has made fun of Palestinian women who have criticized him. He's just an asshole, along with a lot of other characters that have been hijacking the narrative. Hadar Cohen, or this other person, Instagram, Sim Books, or whatever her name is, I forget her name. A lot of them are making money writing books, speaking fees. There's this Catherine Bogan chick who's also gaining a lot of status and following, and charging people speaking fees to be at events. There's an industry. It's an industry. Capitalism leaks into everything. It's an industry.
Yeah, I definitely want to go over Emma Vigeland here, the white lady, her appearance on Bad Haspera, where the Mate guy is on as well. And the dude, the main guy, is literally profiting off genocide of Palestinians. That's what liberal Zionists do. But I appreciate Abdel for coming through. Rick, any closing statements before you have to dip as well? And if Derek, if you can continue, we'll wrap this up together.
I can go to the top of the hour, so it's 10 more minutes.
Okay. Abdel, you're good. I want to let you say your piece.
Yeah, I'm gonna head out, but thank you so much again, and I'm looking forward to more of these conversations.
I appreciate you, brother. Take care.
All right, thank you, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, we'll continue. And honestly, I can't wait until we all get together and grab some drinks. You motherfuckers allow me to be quiet. But let's wrap this up here.
I wrote Decolonize Palestine, incorporates all this sort of concern into his preface. And yeah, it's an issue. Like, Ilan Papi also, what do you do with the people who are already here? Is it a massive violent struggle? If Breakthrough News, if that's what their stance is, good luck organizing around.
Look how long he keeps his mouth open. That's how I know I got this motherfucker, because these liberals are all about appearance and aesthetic. So I left them like mouth open the whole fucking... Anyways.
Yeah, it's an issue. Like, Ilan Papi also, what do you do with the people who are already here? Is it a massive violent struggle? If Breakthrough News, if that's what their stance is, good luck organizing around that.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the thing that I find mystifying is not so much what this guy's opinion was. is that it is so necessary to a movement that believes it has the ability, that it is actual achievable goal to get millions upon millions of people to give up on their own in, I don't know what process, but a violent process, let's say.
Yeah.
He admitted that.
A violent process, or any process for that matter,
Violence.
in a quick period of time, for someone to believe all that.
Violence
Notice
on white people.
She's like, he admitted it. He said it. Like,
He wants
bro,
to
like she
violence
wants to
white
fucking like swat me so bad.
Can you believe it?
Man.
White people, of all people.
What have we ever done?
That is possible. And then to think that I know the best way for me to spend my time in achieving that goal is to even focus on anything that happens on this YouTube show is bizarre to me. It in many respects, it puts, because I think it's perfectly reasonable to have a different opinion. I happen to think that that goal that he is pursuing is completely impossible. Now, I know from his perspective, I say that because I both have a lack of imagination and I don't want that goal to take about to come
Because you're
about.
chauvinist.
But the
A white supremacist.
Yeah. Keep going.
Absolutely.
Keep the video
But
going.
no, but
Yeah.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Again, I called Lynn to call out his propaganda, his Zionist propaganda. And he had to switch the whole conversation to being like, well, what do you believe in? Oh, what you believe in is too radical. It's just a pipe dream. And why would you focus on calling out this itty bitty tiny show? You know how that creepy ass rabbi that they've been pushing a lot, or they were pushing earlier, was like, we'll pull out a map of the quote unquote Middle East and be like, you see, Israel is just this tiny little place, this tiny little land surrounded by these ginormous horde of Arabs, right? That's what he's doing with his channel. The channel has 1.5 million subscribers. It's considered by like the online left one of the most legitimate platforms, right? Somebody that they could all turn to. Suddenly, it's just a startup. It's just, it's not like he's making a living off of this. He is. They're at least getting $3,000 or more than that on Patreon alone. That's not counting the YouTube, payout. That's not counting. They have advertisement. They advertise on this shit. They sell fucking bootleg like hair hormone growing pills. They sell fucking razor blades. They're always pushing out shit. They're always selling themselves to make a living off of working 4 days out of the week for a few hours, and they still can't, do the fucking work. They still can't organize. They still don't have time. Meanwhile, motherfuckers be working overtime and are still trying to put in work.
Idea that someone who that is their project is even monitoring what's happening on a YouTube channel with our size of audience is fascinating to me, because it leads me to believe that in fact what's happening is not that that's ultimately their goal. It is something that is more about self-satisfying themselves.
Yeah.
Well,
that's my
that's
theory.
when
I mean, it feels great to call out liberals. Yeah, go ahead.
Another comment. But this is the issue. So, as we said earlier, the white boy podcast industry, they put misinformation out, and as colonized people, we have to, fix that disinformation. And it's hard. Like I said, I've been doing this for 2 decades, and it's fucking hard. And it's not like, self-satisfying. Like it's a lot of work. It's a fuck ton of work. It's a fuck ton of research, because we have to know the system better than the white people themselves. Right. And then we have to know terminologies and their own theories. And then for us to say, hey, this is why you're wrong. And tell them this is why maybe you should shut the fuck up. Right. And even after all that, we prove to them that we're smarter than them. That's when they start doing the slander. Oh, you're anti-Semitic, or you're this and that. Rick bad, Derek bad, Rose bad, and it's a fucking headache. And we're doing this just to be jerks. We're doing this just to be wreckers. That's Matt Hunter says, I'm a wrecker. No, you say some racist shit. Own up to it, right? Have accountability. But these people don't have accountability. But these same people are trying to be, say, their comrades, they're their allies. At the end of the day, they'll leave you hanging to die, 100%. Or they'll be doing the killing themselves, so.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm glad you said it. It's an inability to be held accountable, so they had to find avenues to avoid it. Why would, if you're really about this life, is what Sam Seder is saying, why are you focusing on us? Well, because I see what you're doing. Why wouldn't I call it out? If we're talking about propaganda wars, if I see that you're spreading Zionist propaganda, why wouldn't I call that out to your audience? So 1.5 million subscribers. The same way that you call out Ben Shapiro. The same way you call out Tim Pool. Why are you calling them out? Why are you wasting your time even having this show when you could be organizing for the Democratic Party? You see, it's funny how the hypocrisy never works for them. And they're advocating for something, yes, more materially in the short term, a goal that can be accomplished in the immediacy. Absolutely, that's what they're advocating for. But it's a fucking band-aid, what they're advocating for. That's why it's easier to accomplish. But even then, they're unwilling to actually be organizers. Like, I could be as critical as I want about like Democrats, but if I find out that you're actually like knocking door to doors, you're actually organizing for the Democratic Party, I'm not going to fuck with you. I'm not going to like you, but I will have respect for you to at least do the work for what you believe in. But they're not even capable of doing that. I think the only time I heard Sam Seder like engage like directly in politics is when he was phone banking for Bernie the Zionist Sanders. That's it. I've never heard of him actually getting off his ass in organizing.
I mean, he kept returning to saying the words white genocide, which is something that we never
well, I think
said.
you could argue if you were going to expel everyone from the region, every one of those European descendants from the region, you could argue that is, from a technical standpoint, acts of genocide, ethnic cleansing.
Look at South Africa.
He shot himself in the foot. Just saying, metaphorically, right? So you can't. He's trying to say, "Oh my God, I'm so done with these people." Like I've never watched them. I'm never going to ever again. But they are examples of how white people really believe. They say you tell them it's not white genocide. You give them an example of how it's not white genocide, and they still say white genocide.
Yep, and that's why I went out of my way to say that's not what I'm advocating for. And the fact that he's like, well, you could argue that technically it would be white genocide. I'm like, well, no, because you cannot commit a genocide against colonizers. That's called victory, motherfuckers. All right.
They don't say, oh, yeah, we're going to do violence against these remaining whites. It's even Malema is land reclamation without compensation. Yeah, I agree with that. Do that.
I'm sorry that it's not.
Let's start like macheting people.
I'm sorry that our position on this program is that we do not believe that thousands, if not millions, of Israelis should be slaughtered in a way.
Well, you're not saying slaughtered, but he just believes that.
Nobody said that. Nobody said that,
bro. But you see, this fucking white women, bro, are so fucking dangerous because they will make these false accusations.
I know.
She claimed I was anti-Semitic, and now she's claiming that I was calling for the massacre. The massacre of Europeans, putting words in my mouth. White women, they are so fucking dangerous with their false accusations. They will literally, their false accusations get people fucking killed, murdered. In this case, she's trying to smear me. But let's be very clear. This is what white women do. When their whiteness is challenged, they make false accusations about you in order to damage and hurt you. And their wish in their fucking heart is for you to cease to exist. They've done it for generations after generations, and we're seeing it again. When did I ever say that? We went through it. When did I ever call for that?
In the words of that chief in the Pocahontas movie, these white men are dangerous.
Yeah, and white women being it excludes them? Fuck that, bro.
You ship these Neanderthals back to Europe.
All right.
Just these two for now.
3. Let's not forget Matt Leck, the little
I
fucking
have a list.
guard dog.
Yeah.
No, he just believes that overnight.
He said it would be violent.
No, well, I mean, he's saying that there is a mechanism in which the violence is going to win
already
out
violent.
to get exactly. I mean, that's what that violence is happening.
I don't know if that laugh there was like trying to laugh at me when that's literally all I was saying. Like, colonialism, anti-colonialism is all inherently violent because that's how you establish a colonial state, through violence. That's the only way you end it, through violence. That's just reality. That is what is required inherently within that system, and to uproot and end that system. But Emma's acting like, if I'm like, what the fuck? How uneducated do you have to be? Yeah, go ahead.
That's so good.
So this system right now is violent. There's genocide happening, missing and murder indigenous women and people. Right. There's the incarceration of black people into prisons. There's the taking of indigenous and black children from their communities. And indigenous children have equal, but black children don't. So black children are being exploited into white families, right? Into adoption. There's the U.S. foreign policy, imperialist foreign policy. There's capitalism. It even exploits sellers themselves. Though everything in this fucking system is exploitative. So and violent, which is violent. So to say that what we're saying is fucked up when in their fucking vision of society is not violent, motherfucker, you him or them promoting the idea of like a fucking system, any kind of colonial system in their vision is violence, even if it's a red one, right? A communist one, a socialist one, which you say he's not. So it makes it even worse. I'm not saying he's I'm giving him a pass for white communist or labor Zionism, but it's fucked up. He's fucked up.
Derek?
I don't remember. I just that these people are white supremacists and they are colonialists. They support colonialism and settler colonialism, and they think Europeans are superior, and it's not much more complicated than that. Yeah, that's it. That's she wants to call the cops on you, so you get exterminated for being brown and threatening white hegemony. And yeah, that's she's a Becky and he's a Chet, and they're doing Becky and Chet shit.
Yeah, she's a Becky that will
colonizers.
Karen.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what is considered the rational left. 1.5 million subscribers, but they're a tiny channel, tiny.
We already see it.
But the idea that that there is someone who's interested in that type of violent revolution and has the time to...
I'm not interested in it. If there was another avenue, awesome. I'm not interested in it. That is the reality. That's why I said I'm not advocating for it. That's what is. All right, we're wrapping this up here.
Quote back to me something I said on November 1st, 6 months ago is...
Can you believe that I quoted him, guys? How dare I bring fucking receipts? How dare I bring evidence of his Zionist propaganda? You cannot win with fucking liberals. Even when you bring evidence forth, even when you show them what they've said, make them admit their fucking words, it's still somehow wrong. How is that possible that he's complaining that I brought evidence forward? And I did try to call into the show earlier. I just couldn't get on. I could not get on. I had to use a different number to get on because the truth is I've called onto their show previously and I did the exact same thing, fucking embarrassed them. The difference was it was about the fact that this guy is fucking corporate approved because he used to have, an MSNBC gig. So I'm just saying, how can we trust somebody who calls himself part of the left, but is approved by, the corporate powers that be? Anyways, I had to use a different fucking number to call them. That's the only way I got on. So now I know for a fact that whenever I call on, I have to keep changing numbers in order to get on. But I'm a petty motherfucker and I'm a hater for fucking real. Like, that is my objective here. So I'll call them back again at some point and just continue to expose their fucking white supremacy. All right, guys, I think we should wrap up there. Any closing statements, Derek, Rick?
Nope, good job. You did a great job on there. You said it's about all there is to say. And yeah, just got a couple of cracker blood vessels to pop, and that was great. It's great. It's good work. It's work that needs to be done.
Yeah. I will say I don't think you lost your shit, at all. I do think they were interrupting you and putting words in your mouth constantly. And that itself is infuriating. I mean, I deal with it all the time. So I do think that you weren't yelling like, you kept your cool. So, and you made them, like expose themselves. So, I like my crackers salted, so they can cry all they want.
All right, and just to close out, and I appreciate y'all for being here. Just to show you where it all started, we're taking it back. Here we go. This is why I called it. I don't want to put any words in their mouth. I think this should be it. All right.
Zionist, if you believe that Israel has you're not anti-Zionist if you believe that Israel has a right to exist. Do you believe Israel has a right to exist? I don't know about that.
How?
I mean, well, no. Like, I believe Israel has a right to exist. I just don't think it can exist as a Jewish state as opposed to a democratic one. Like, I mean, I think, you're, and I think we'll probably have a guest on in this in terms of like, the definition of Zionism is sometimes can be a little bit like sort of evasive.
It isn't.
I don't know that I've ever really considered myself anti-Zionist
because you're a Zionist.
But if being a Zionist is to support Israel as it is currently configured, fundamentally so, that we have a tier of second-class citizens, and then also maintaining what is now appears to be a permanent occupation, not annexation, then yes, I am an anti-Zionist.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that Israel should disappear. I don't think that
you're a Zionist.
Or even we don't advocate for people being removed. What we want is, I think, what like Pappy and a lot of people, Jeff Halper of the Israeli Committee Against Housing Demolition, they say one state, democratic, and like I personally am like, if we can help that and fund peace in it, which is what the original project should have been. Except
the original project was Zionism. All right, that's and just
horrible,
right? What do y'all think about that? Then I'll show Emma.
That's the first time watching that clip for me, and that's fucking horrible.
Yeah, this is why I held on to the fucking receipts for months, because they admitted to being fucking Zionists, and they try to change the definition of anti-Zionism. What he's talking about is being anti-apartheid, and as Derek mentioned, that's just white people fucking words.
And these motherfuckers don't even blink an eye. This lady didn't blink an eye when she said that. Nobody. But when you were talking, they were making facial movements like they were constipated or something. And it's like, what the fuck? You're saying racist ass shit, and then you're okay with that? It's not okay.
Yep. All right, let's hear her idiotic statement.
Would be great.
Yeah, I mean, when people ask the question, does Israel have the right to exist? Of course it does.
Would be great.
Yeah, I mean, when people ask the question, does Israel have the right to exist? Of course it does. Of course, people in Israel have the right to safety.
Would be great.
Yeah, I mean, when people ask the question, does Israel have the right to exist? Of course it does. Of course, people in Israel have the right to safety. Of course, because it does exist, and because people live there. That's why they have the right. Because saying that it doesn't exist would mean expelling 9 million Israelis that live there. No. The point, though, is that does it have the right to exist in a way that is a permanent apartheid state and an occupation where there's 2.4 million people plus that have no rights, like don't have rights of movement, don't have rights to drive on certain roads. Only Israelis have that right. Don't have rights over their water supply, over their electricity,
they don't know what
over their
terminologies are. They don't know what Zionism means. They don't know what apartheid means.
No, Rick. They know. Rick, they fucking know. They're intelligent. They went to better schools than we did. They were fucking fed better food than we've ever had their entire lives. They know, Rick. They know.
Universities, they don't really teach really good radical thought at universities. Like
No, but
everything I
saying,
know about Marxism or about decolonial theory, I didn't learn about that shit at school at
Rick,
all.
I'm not. That's my frustration. I'm not talking about anything radical. I'm saying they're redefining what the word Zionism means. That's what they're actively doing. They know what it means. They, especially Sam,
they're doing like Darvo, like you know, debate. That's like the white people debate tactics. It's so funny that like the other some other white people we've dealt with, they're like, let's do debate. It's just like, I'm not debating you about, you're just a white supremacist. Like, you're just a fucking racist idiot, and you think that white people can just like have a state and a nation wherever they want. And yeah, just there's no more, because you can't. It gets into a whole anti-racist education. You know, it's like, it's not like we're gonna sit here and teach these people epistemic colonialism. And you know, it's like that stuff's all gonna like, they literally reject that shit. Like even white communists, like they literally reject learning about colonialism, because they're just like, no, just focus on let's all do socialism and forget about the national question, and like it will, you know, whatever, it's a big nation for all of us. And by for all of us, they mean like that's what they're saying. They're like, whatever, their one state solution for everyone. Like that's exactly what the whole flattening that white people do. It's just like, oh, it's not a white people problem. It's a systemic problem that's not like having to do with white people. Like it's, you know, whiteness isn't like it's not the prime, you know, European colonialism isn't even among the Marxists. They say, you know, the white people aren't the primary contradiction in European colonialism. It's this nebulous concept of capitalism and imperialism, and that's what they, you know, it's just white people delusions. It's like you could write tomes about like the different manifestations of white delusions. Like they say so much just crazy shit. Like they say so much dumb shit that is just like hand wringing and just like trying to abstract things in a way that makes it like, you know, the settler moved to innocence, as Rick talks about, like so where they're not like they're not bad actors, they're not bad people, you know. It's like this whole, their fragile mentality, their fragile identity and mentality is just like always on display like this. Sorry.
No, you're good. And then Rick, like I hear what you're saying, Rick, in terms of like universities and, you know, that type of education, especially at that wealth, at that expense. It's not radical whatsoever. But I don't think this is radical at all. Literally, the person that sent the question in gives him like the definition of what Zionism is, and he refutes it and try to redefine it like in real time. I'll play it again. Watch.
You're not anti-Zionist if you believe that Israel has a right to exist.
The question is, you're not anti-Zionist if you believe Israel has a right to exist. Again, like that's very clear cut. And look what he does.
You're not anti-Zionist if you believe that Israel has a right to exist. Do you believe Israel has a right to exist? I don't know about that.
How?
I mean, well, no. Like I believe Israel has a right to exist.
He's a Zionist, you know?
Yeah, he is, because he's advocating for the continuation of settler colonization. He's a Zionist. All forms of settler colonization is Zionism, right? You know, Australian identity, Canadian, Mexican, American, South African, the settler identity, Rhodesian, all of those identities are obviously a settler colonial form of Zionism, right? So fuck this guy.
All right, y'all. With that, we'll wrap up. I appreciate y'all for being here. Please like, subscribe, share, do what you got to do. Allow me to be the thorn on the side to all these fucking liberals. And to be very clear, as I always say here, do not feed the streamers. Do not feed the podcasters. Do not feed the video essayists. All right, keep your fucking money. You work too hard for it. And if you're a leftist and you're asking for money just to flap your fucking gums, you're an opportunist. You're a fraud. I don't give a damn if you're a grifter. That word is played out. It's burnt out. You're an opportunist.
Exploiter.
Fucking be part of the working class, motherfucker. Break bread in the break room and radicalize or unionize your coworkers. It's that fucking simple. It's not complicated. You're an opportunist if you're making a living off the struggle. All right. Hasta la próxima, ya.